Welcome back to Views and Brews. I'm Brendan, and this week we've got something a bit different. I've been saying that I was going to do a homebrew tutorial for quite a long time now. Now is the time. The children have gone back to school. The wife has gone to work. I'm at home alone. I've got the house empty, which is the best time to brew. So I'm going to be taking you through planning your brew right the way back from 2-4 weeks before you even get to a brew day. Building your recipe, refining it, choosing your malts, your hops, and your yeast selection, checking through your ingredients, what you have, what you need to order, having a look through equipment, getting your equipment list together, setting you up for the perfect brew day, getting ready the night before. The actual brew day itself, from start to finish, I'm going to be taking you through every single aspect of it that I can think of that will help you possibly to improve on your brews, and any little tips and things that I can give along the way to help you out. We're going to be looking at a bit of yeast management, how to mill your grain, what to do with spent grain after using it, a couple of recipes I might throw in there if I find time on brew day, but we'll see about that. And we're going to have a look at a bit of the fermentation side of things, which I think is probably the most important part of brewing altogether. From aerating your worts to setting your beer up and your yeast up for a successful fermentation, all the way through to cold crashing your beer before you take it out, and then moving on to after fermentation to setting yourself up for a bottling day or whatever day it is that you use. If you're using kegs, I myself am going to be bottling all my beer, and I'm going to go through the whole process from start to finish to show you how to make it streamlined and simple and easy and get that perfect beer all the way through. Everything I can think of, and actually even we're going to taste the beer after it's brewed, which will probably be, you know, I'm recording this now, I reckon it'll be in about 5 to 6 weeks time from me recording this now that we'll try the beer. We're going to evaluate it. We're going to try to think about the things that can go wrong and things that I anticipate possibly going wrong, because I think these are the ways that you improve, by asking yourself, continually asking yourself questions on what could I improve on the next brew, and then trying the beer and seeing does any of that show up afterwards. So that's the plan. And all things working out, we should have a nice black IPA at the end of 6 weeks time, fingers crossed. 5 or 6 different part series, so bite-sized chunks that you can dive into and just check out which pieces are relevant to you. But I would say it's kind of like a little bit more in depth than some of the homebrew videos that you get, which just take you from A to Z in 10 or 15 minutes. I really want to try and squeeze in as much information as I can, especially for the newer homebrewers, but also for the people that have been brewing for quite a while, and for people like me who are still using the old Pico boiler kits with an insulated mash tun. But that doesn't mean that if you've got one of these shiny stainless steel objects that you can't watch this too. There's a lot of really interesting, I hope, going to be really interesting, relevant information that you can take away and use in your brewing, or not, or at least learn from my mistakes, depending on how this brew day goes. So that's the plan. That's what's up next. Okay, so planning your brew. This may seem like a really obvious one that doesn't really need any thinking about at all, but in actual fact, the more you plan, the more you're setting yourself up for success. I can't count the amount of times where I've just suddenly woke up and said, oh, I'm going to brew today, or I'm going to brew tomorrow. And I've ended up missing ingredients, changing recipes, looking for pieces of equipment that I can't find, a whole bunch of reasons. But you really should be thinking about planning your brew. Sit down with a cup of coffee Get the calendar out, make sure you're around for the whole brewing process, that you're not going off on holiday or you're not cutting it too fine with being busy, no time for bottling or kegging. You need to be thinking about all of these things, so try and work it backwards. When do I want the beer for? And how long is it going to take me to get to that stage from here? So a couple of the things that I would be thinking about before brew day are, do I have the ingredients for the beer that I'm considering brewing? Do I actually want to brew that beer? How old are the ingredients? How well have they been stored? Have I got all the equipment? Was there anything I was missing from the last brew, or something that broke, or something that I've lost that I can't find? You need to be thinking about all these things just before the point where you say, okay, I'm going to put an order in for all my brewing recipe for the particular beer. No, you need to be thinking about what beer style you want to brew. Why do you want to brew that beer style? Have you never brewed it before? Are you capable of brewing it? Are you going to do some research on that beer? Maybe you're brewing it for an event, a time of the year, a seasonal sort of beer. Is it a style that you could manage drinking 40 pints of, or are you going to be sharing it out? Do you need this to be a really, really well-made brew? And then should you rethink the style of beer that you're going to brew based on how good you are at brewing it? Have you ever brewed it before? Is it for competition? Or is it a recipe you've brewed several times and is your house pale ale? Maybe you want to try a different ingredient. Maybe you want to clone another recipe, or maybe you don't want to brew that beer at all, but that's all the ingredients that you have in your brew shed or wherever you're keeping your ingredients. There's a whole bunch of things that you could be asking yourself, but you can't do that if you just brew in the next couple of days. You're always going to be rushing. So setting yourself up for success involves thinking about brewing a beer over a couple of weeks, over 4 weeks, considering brewing a beer, and then going out and getting all the bits together that you have got, getting all your brewing equipment together, and then realizing all those things that you've forgotten about, that you now have plenty of time to get together. If you need to order, you've got plenty of time for getting the order in. So another reason you want to be planning your beer for quite a while before you actually do it is to give yourself time to research the beer. And researching the beer and writing a beer recipe and sitting on that recipe for a while allows you to learn about the style you're about to brew and to tweak the recipe as you're going, to refine it and to get it to a place that you really feel like you understand the ingredients you're about to use in the recipe. So giving yourself that extra bit of time allows you to prepare, and as the saying goes, if you fail to prepare, you can prepare to fail. But by allowing yourself just that extra bit of time, a couple of weeks, so you can get used to the idea of the recipe you're about to brew. If you want to just brew on the fly, that's fine, but if you're expecting really good results from your beer, unless you're brewing every single week, which some of you are, I know, but you really need to be spending a bit of time, sit on the recipe for a while, get to understand the malts. Are you using the right malts? Are you using the right hops? Is it appropriate for the style? Do you even care if the style that you've chosen, if you're using the right malts and hops and yeast and brewing water for it? It gives you time for things that are unexpected, and there's always something that you can't plan for in a brew day, and there's always something that you forget or miss. There's so many things to get together, all the ingredients, all the equipment, your recipe, the time alone, wherever you're brewing. I do it in the kitchen, but you might be brewing outside. What happens if it's going to rain? Where is your equipment? Does it all need cleaning? Is it all dirty? How old are your hops? All of this kind of stuff. So I always try to give myself at least 2 weeks. And sometimes I might be thinking about a beer for quite a long time, and then 2 weeks before I brew it, I'll say, here, right, now I'm going to actually start to learn about this beer, spend hours on the internet researching it, get to understand the beer style, and you learn a lot about what you're about to do before you go ahead and do it. And it's at that point you're going to start to need to look at some of these things here. So after planning your beer, it's time to start researching recipes and getting a recipe down so you can start to think about putting in your order for ingredients and getting set up for the brew day itself.